God damn it. Now, how do I bring up your thing without calling?
All right, Brett. You ready, man?
908.
We're on, dude.
All right.
What's going on, man?
Cool, we're on. What's up?
What's going on? All right, dude. So let's talk a little bit here. Let's talk about what's happening here in Las Vegas. We got new home builds. We got a lot of things going on with people going out. And we're going to talk today about how to avoid the mistakes that people make when they go buy new homes. A lot of people, they avoid mistakes by, just going to the new home tracks. And we're talking mostly about new home here. We're not going to talk about, we're not going to talk about existing home too much, but just the difference between new home and custom home.
Yeah.
And
what's happening in existing homes right now is just off the charts with anything. So normal advice doesn't necessarily apply to that scenario right now because it's completely crazy. But even with new homes right now, so here's the whole thing. Normally, there's about 14 to 15,000 active homes on the market in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Right now, there's like 2,400.
Okay.
So this hasn't just happened at once. It's been occurring for the past year. What that did was it led buyers to beating their heads against the wall and saying, I'm just going to go to a new home. It's a little bit more money, but I'm getting what I want. And most importantly, I don't need to play the bidding game. They're getting tired of writing offers and getting beat out. Just go to a new home, get in contract.
Right.
All of that momentum has carried over to a new home.
Okay.
So I guess the normal rules in a sense don't apply to that either right now, because a lot of people in the past would, I could come into the builder and I could say, hey, I'm representing my buyer here. I can get them incentives.
Right.
A lot of different ways to apply to get them a better deal.
Sure.
But it's to the point now where there's builders are starting to do multiple offer situations on their, right? So they're opening a new phase and they have 10 lots that are going to be opening in 2 or 3 weeks from now. Well, those 10 lots have 30 or 40 people reserved that want that lot. So what they're starting to do now is say, who can come in with the best terms? I know this lot is a $20,000 lot premium, but if you're willing to pay $35,000 on the lot, and then we're going to take in consideration what upgrades are you going to get into the new home? So what's your total purchase price going to be? Are you going to only get 30 grand in upgrades? Or are you going to get 50 grand in upgrades?
Let's go back. So the first thing we have to look at is, again, this is the French Workbench podcast. We're talking today about new homes and the mistakes people make when they go and buy new homes, and you want to avoid these mistakes. When you avoid, some of the mistakes we want to maybe look at to avoid, we're going to say the first thing I'm going to look at is getting a real estate agent. So when somebody goes and they're looking at a new home or they're considering going to a new home, there's realtors there, but you want to avoid the mistake.
You don't want to go normally you don't want to go directly to the builder, because everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to get a better deal, or I'm going to, do this and that. That's not true at all. All builders' costs on every one of their homes and all the upgrades you get, lots, everything, all of their prices, they set well ahead of time before they open that community. So whether you come in with a realtor and that realtor gets some commission from that builder or not, doesn't make in one bit, doesn't make a bit of difference. All it does is you give up your rights to have somebody who knows what they're doing represent you. So listen, if you have to go to court for something, I don't care if it's a traffic ticket. They can get reduced to a parking ticket. If you have someone who's willing to walk into court with you, who goes to court every day and will represent you for free, would you not do that?
Yeah. Well,
of course. People don't even know if they're being taken for a ride or if the builder's trying something off on them. They have no idea because they're not familiar with it.
So if you have somebody that goes out there and you're looking at avoiding the first mistake we can talk about is having a realtor. Is there any stories that you can tell me where somebody's gone to a new homes track, they didn't get a realtor involved, they really didn't know the process, and they let the builder take their hand through that process?
Nobody that I've personally worked with, but I have plenty of stories of people that I know that I've met later on down the road through an open house or whatever it is, where they never became my client. It was just talking to people where, they get in contract, they close on the new home, and all these issues are coming up with the builder. They had all these last minute things trying to add upgrades of this and that. And it was just a whole communication level thing that was very disappointing to them at the end. And here's the thing too, even after they closed, it's not only important from the get-go and throughout the entire process, but even when you close, you have a year builder warranty.
Okay.
Right? So the issues that I see that a lot of people have are after they close and they've moved into the brand new house, and per their contracts, they say, us as a builder, you have a year to let us know if anything's going on, this and that, and they'll come and fix it for free. Well, that sounds great, but where it comes into play are the customer service issues of them actually showing up frequently, taking care of the problem right, not hiring it out to this and that, whatever it is. So if you want anything taken care of in your property that's repaired, it has to go through that builder that first year for it to be under warranty.
Yeah,
for
let
them to do it for free.
Say something about that. So it's like a lot of people don't know when they're going to buy a new home that the problems are maybe just knowing what to do. And I think that's where it comes down to.
That's exactly what it comes down to, Blue.
It's really about, you want to avoid the mistake of not being too, and I wouldn't say that people have, they're not, but they don't know what that process. They think going and buying a new home is like everything's there and it's they're going to take care of everything.
So,
and that's
listen, a simple call to a realtor. Here's what I want. Here's where I want to buy. Here's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Let the realtor take care of everything else from that point on.
Sure.
They're going to guide you. They're going to let you know what's going on. They're going to explain things to you. Even if a builder explains things to you, it's coming from their side.
Sure. Yeah.
Which may not always be the entire full picture.
Well, you
know what I mean?
You have some people that are actually looking at online information, and they do know that there's a lottery going on for new homes. And so a lot of people are out buying new homes because there's really not a lot on the market. But I think that there's a lot of mistakes that people could avoid. Not just, existing homes different because
walking into let me retrace a little bit. Even walking into a new home builder in this market, it's still very much to your benefit to walk in the door with a realtor representing you.
Correct.
Than not. As in, it's not going to cost you the house by walking in the door with the realtor.
Gotcha.
Because that's already factored into the builder's prices that they have for their costs anyways.
The other thing too is like when you get into the contract, there is some fine print on there, and some of that print, this is another mistake to avoid. It's
pages and pages of fine print that are set up by their attorney. So I always tell everybody, when you go to get into contract on a new home, just keep in mind that everything's set up to represent the builder.
So explain when I say avoid that mistake of reading the fine print. You got a contract. A lot of people don't know. They're excited.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people just go in and they just sign something, and then they call me later and they go, you know what? I don't remember what the final purchase price was.
So yeah, that's true. Here's the thing with the fine print, which is, to be honest with you, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You either accept it or you don't buy the house.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you don't want clarification. And before you make that decision, whether you're going to accept it or not accept it, you want to know what you're accepting and what you're not accepting.
Got you.
That's something the builder is not going to really explain to you. They're going to say, here you go. Here's 50 pages.
So when you look at that fine print and you look at the contract, how big is the contract usually when you write for a new home? It's about 20 pages or something? It's pretty lengthy,
20,
right?
30 pages, and then some will include the HOA stuff in there and title stuff. And the packages can range anywhere between like 20 pages to 50 pages, depending on what they want to put in there.
So they have to give you
They're all disclosures. Like, they have to put in there, just so you're aware, it gets windy in Las Vegas.
Right.
Just so you're aware, there's an airport in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Some of the disclosures are that. And then you're signing a disclosure to say you signed a disclosure.
So, right. So,
That's
look, man, they know they're making that money.
Yeah.
So going back to looking at the fine print, okay, looking at the contract, looking at all the information that's involved. There's CC&Rs, right? Do they get that up front too? Like if you're going to go buy a new home, do they give like some type of booklet or something from the new builder? That's, I don't know, just curious about like the planned unit development or something.
Yeah, they give all that stuff. They have to disclose all that stuff. So the community layout.
Yeah.
If they're developing it in 3 phases and just the first phase is developed and you're moving into the first phase, they're going to give you the layout of the entirety of the community, what's going to go up where and all that stuff. They may not necessarily have the exact timelines of when they're going to finish the community because that's dependent on how they sell, on the market, a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So it's real simple. When one when one phase starts to get, then they start to make plans and move on to another one, and they don't do that until the first one and so forth. So, but it'll lay out the community, rules and regulations, what's allowed, what's not allowed.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah. And I think what you got to look at too, like how many people really read that information, right? Not many. Like if
I do.
Yeah. But
your realtor does.
Well, listen, if I'm somebody,
Or they should.
Like I bought a few, home and we had stuff going on. People don't read that stuff. So it's important to read the fine print. And I think people just want to get through the process.
Yeah.
of
So
the
that's
fun
what
part.
I'm saying. I get that. Trust me.
Yeah.
I get that. They shouldn't necessarily be that excited about it, because that doesn't interest people.
Yes.
But it's my job representing you to go through all of that verbiage. And hey, just so you're aware, it says this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware. I'm not saying don't do it or do it. I'm just saying just so you're aware. Right? And if you can have someone who's going to know how to interpret the language and explain it to you and explain what's going on with the whole scenario and the whole process, and it doesn't cost you anything, and it doesn't cost you anything with the builder to do it.
Yeah.
I guess I don't understand the reason why you wouldn't.
So the other thing is about cost. Let's go to this other situation. So do people really, you want to avoid the mistake of going and buying a home by just purchase price? If you're lowballing a price. Now, if you can't get into a house.
It depends on the market.
Okay. So you think in this market.
I think in this market, you're paying over list price if you want to get a house. That's what I think.
Okay.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
No,
I get it.
Maybe not all people want to hear.
Yeah. No, I get it.
People who don't do full price or over full price are getting their handed to them right now.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. So you look at the new price and you say, okay, what if you have a buyer in a normal market? Is price something to consider in a different market? Meaning, let's say it's a market where we're not scarce on properties.
Absolutely. Listen, price is still subject to being relevant right now too. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just letting you know what's happening in the market. I'm not saying it's necessarily in your benefit to overpay 10, 15, 20 grand on a property. It may be, right? If you're coming from California and you're getting if you're getting double the home for half the price, mm-hmm. and you're paying cash, like, what do you care if you're paying 10 or 15 grand over? Mm-hmm. But if you're from here and you're on a budget and all that stuff, then it might matter a lot more. Either way, you need to be aware of what's going on. So at the end of the day, here's what I always say. It's not so much, hey, I'm going to get into I'm willing to offer 10 grand over list price to get the property. It's ultimately, unless there's something that's referred to or addressed specifically ahead of time about appraisal, then the offer is still going to be contingent on an appraisal. Mm-hmm. So the list price is $350. We get in contract at $360. If it's contingent on appraisal, none of that matters. You know what matters? The appraised price. If the appraisal comes in at $345 per the contracts, you go back and renegotiate. Now, here's where you want to also have a realtor on your side, is because I would say to you, just so you know, it's still contingent on appraisal, and they didn't counter anything against that. So if it comes in at $345 and we're in contract at $360, then you go back and you renegotiate. But per the contracts, you go back and renegotiate if it doesn't appraise out. But this is a conversation I have with the other side before we even get into contract, which is, listen, we're on the high side here. If my buyer does this and it appraises lower, is your seller going to say, no, I still want this money? Yeah. I mean, you don't know this as a buyer if you're just...
Brad, let me ask you, I'm going to say something, man.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, do you drink a lot of coffee?
Yeah.
Dude, I do too, man.
I drink a ton.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because...
My best hours of my day are from like 5 a.m. until about noon. About 1 p.m., I start fading down quick, dude.
It's like a crash, right?
I just start like 5 o'clock. I'm like, man, are they calling me?
Hey, it's funny too. Like on a Saturday or something, your girl will walk in and she'll ask you a question. Be like, what'd you say? He's going to be all tired.
Yeah, man.
I'm in studio right now with Brett Jenny. We're talking about the mistakes you want to avoid when you buy a new home. And we've gone over a few things here. We've talked about the first mistake is you don't want to, well, it's not the first one, but you want to maybe look at the price. You want to look at the fine print. That's another mistake to avoid.
Well, keep in mind too, which is what most people, here's a major one since we're speaking of this that most people don't know buying a new home. you get in contract at a certain price.
Yeah.
You still get an appraiser per a loan, but per that offer, it says that you're paying that price.
Yes.
So that means that if you get a new home contract at $520,000 and the appraisal comes back at $500,000, the builder
you're
says
paying the $20,000.
The builder
right?
says you're bringing in that $20,000 difference.
But here's the thing.
People don't know that, dude.
Yeah, but I don't have. Here's what I want to say. I don't want to alarm anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it is something to make.
Well, it's never usually an issue because
Correct.
they hire the same appraiser,
Right. Well, appraisers know too that they take the comp in the area, and that those homes have been selling. And
so one is going to comp the other, is going to comp the other, is going to comp the other.
It's going to support the value.
The reason why the builders have that, and it's the same thing with incentives, okay? So if I can get you incentives on your side, on the buying side, it's not going to come out of the purchase price.
Yes.
Because builders are not going to lower their purchase price and devalue their homes, that home in that community, because now it's going to affect every other home in that community. And they're not going to let one appraisal affect the 100 other homes that are just like that in that community. But what they'll do is they'll give it to you in form of incentives. So we'll give you 10 grand in upgrades for free.
Got you.
Or we'll give you a 30% discount on your flooring or something like that. So it's not affecting the purchase price, but you're getting more value for it.
So you see a lot of people that are walking in new homes. They don't know this information. We also talked about getting a real estate agent. That's a mistake you want to avoid is don't go by yourself. Get a realtor. I'm not saying you can't get a deal with their realtor, but you have to understand if you get a realtor outside of the builder, they're going to have your best interest. Where if you get
they have to by law,
right? And a realtor's best interest has whose best interest involved? The builder, right? Is that
correct?
Right.
So they're sales agents for the builder.
That's it.
And they'll tell you that. They'll tell you straight up, just so you know, we represent the builder and the builder's best interest. So that's what I'm saying. Why not have somebody who knows what they're doing, who's familiar with that situation, who will represent you and your best interest for free?
Yeah.
It's just, there's not really a reason not to. It'd be different if you had to pay, but you don't.
Well, and so you look at new homes, there's I think there's lack of education a little bit. There's a lot of things you can get online, but there's a lack of education for the average consumer out there going out and buying a home.
So you can get all the information you want online. That doesn't mean anything about you knowing the process. Mm-hmm. You need to know, great, I can get a bunch of information, but I don't know how to interpret it correctly.
Right.
What good is that? Correct. You just flooded your brain with a bunch of info that you don't know how to decipher.
Right. Right. I mean, and so you look at the problems that they see, and then they're like, well, I got this information online. I have enough. I'm armed. I'm going out. I'm talking to a builder. I'm going to get what I want. But
you still can, but why not have someone represent you?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big parts of the problem, right? Is just not having representation. Now let's keep moving on this. So another mistake or something you would want to avoid if you're out there, and this is just bringing to people's attention, is the AC unit, right? And so you have a lot of people that don't understand it. Maybe you need to get a home inspector or somebody to inspect the property or even inspect the AC unit, because the last thing that you want is to have an issue come up and then you're out of, let's say that it's closed. Now you got to go back to the builder and you got to say, this isn't working, whatever. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts?
So let me ask you a question. If you go to Best Buy and you purchase basically any product they have there, what's one of the first things that they do? Would you like to buy a warranty with that?
Yeah.
So it's almost like just because something's made to work a certain way, that there's a certain percentage of errors in there, that just because it's built a certain way or supposed to be a certain way, doesn't mean there can't be defects.
Right.
Majority of them won't, but why would they offer warranties and even have that if they made a 100% perfect product?
Yeah. Well, there's nothing perfect. And when they're
that's all I'm saying,
they're pushing product, right? That's all they're doing is pushing product.
Things can get missed. And they have so many people, so many moving parts of people that work for them that come into that house at different phases to do different things.
Yeah.
That there are things all the time that is missed or not done properly. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's a lot of major things, but regardless, there's things that aren't done properly or cookie cutter or something like that was simply missed because there were so many moving parts and people and supervisors in that 6 months to 8 months that house is being built, that a home inspector that you hire on your own that has nothing to do with the builder, a separate home inspector comes in and we'll be able to get those things addressed. I just had one last month closing that they had to come in and do a bunch of things at the end.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's a big deal.
But here's the thing. If you're talking about something major like an AC or electrical or something like that, that's why it's also important to have a realtor, because when you close and you move in, you have that 1-year warranty that I like to say is like a bumper to bumper warranty. They cover everything.
Yeah.
Well, if you're having issues, when I see people have issues with builders, it's usually after the fact, and it's within that first year of having them come there and address things and get them taken care of properly. But you know who can supersede all that for you? The realtor you used.
Correct. Also, too, the realtor you use is also going to come in and fight for you if there's an issue, right?
Absolutely.
Right. They're going to call the builder, call them out and say, listen, give me this information. You know, we just had a caller, you know, we do another podcast, but we had a caller that came in and said there was an issue with the foundation, right? And there was some issues that came in. And I think that's another mistake to avoid is you can't really avoid that, though. Like where if you're a builder, and let's say you build a property, you've laid the foundation and it's complete.
There's different tension slabs that you can put in given the kind of ground you have. But ultimately, if it's ground that's going to cause foundation issues, period, either you didn't put in the right slab and with the right post tension or whatever, or you just messed up somewhere. Yeah. So what was their scenario? Then they had cracks in their foundation or what?
Yeah. So apparently, I don't know if it was like it was uneven. Maybe that was the situation.
Wow.
Like there was some. I don't know.
The ground was settling underneath them, but they didn't anticipate correctly.
Yeah, and then also too, I think there's a lot of people, and I had a situation where I had a client that did a home, and then they looked at going through the process when they do a home inspection. They hired a home inspector, and some of the stuff. You know, you look at what builders don't want you to hire a home inspector because I think it holds them accountable. Is that not true?
Well, it's just. Yeah, I mean,
it does to a little bit.
It's just more of a pain for them to get done what they want to get done.
Yeah.
So, you know, they have no problem with it and they allow it, but you have to also keep in mind, be a licensed inspector that's registered with that builder. So that requires that home inspector to carry a certain amount of insurance for their business. And be, you know, of course, licensed and all that stuff. And they have to submit all that stuff to the builder and get approved by the builder.
So I think too, though, that many people know that you should get a home inspector when they go buy a house?
No.
They don't, right? Because they think, well, it's an existing home.
It's a new home. It comes with warranties. And I'm like, yeah, it does come with warranties. And technically, I guess you're right in that sense. But they don't understand the intricacies that happen.
Yes.
Especially after the fact, when that year after. It's like, listen, I know they say they're supposed to do something, but that doesn't always correlate with it being done or being done smoothly. You want a bulldog to come in and get it done? You call your realtor.
Yeah.
I've done that many a times.
Let's talk about avoiding the mistake of buying custom home versus new home. Now, when you buy custom, I mean, usually you can have everything that you want. I just want to say this about the custom home. The custom home is something that you really lay the foundation for. You're the one for at least setting up all the permits. You're the one getting all the.
You're going to have a far better built home
on a custom home.
100%.
Okay, so would you recommend people avoiding buying new homes versus custom if you can, or would you say
it's a price point thing?
Yeah, it is.
So if you're under $1 million and even up to 1.5. If you're in any new area like Summerlin or whatever, it has HOAs. There's no, like, you're not.
Yeah. I mean, you got SIDS and lives up there too, right?
Yeah. The only places that allow custom homes to be built, or I should say, is these builders are either building $1 million plus.
Yeah.
Or they're starting 3 or 4 or 5 million.
Yeah.
You know, so, but because you're paying so much money, and they're only building one of a kind home like yours. So when they're building a community like Lennar comes in and says, we're going to put up 150 homes, they come in, they build 4 models. And guess what? Every home in that community of 150 homes is a variation of those 4 models.
Do you think that?
I mean,
well, look at but you got to think though. There's permit costs. There's time. You might get a discount or better deal if you're.
Well, it's like anything, man. If you go and buy a sweater from the Gap, or you buy a cashmere sweater that's hand knitted, what do you think is going to be better quality, dude?
The hand knitted, of course. Yeah, of course.
So,
but I'm just saying,
you're going to pay a lot more.
How many people though have the ability to go buy custom? You know, and I'm not saying that people don't.
Not a lot,
because
100%.
And so. Not unfortunately, but some of the mistakes people do is they don't know, like you said, the rights of what they have or what they can and can't do with a new home. I wouldn't say they avoid the mistake of going custom, but they don't know that if you're buying custom, the mistake they have is if you're somebody out there that's got money or that has the ability to do that, it would be better to go that route. Would you say that's fair?
100%.
Okay.
I mean, listen, if I had the money, I would get it done specifically to the way that I wanted with where the land. I mean,
isn't there new home builders out there that do custom though? They do custom, right? So
so there's a few smaller ones. There's one out of Henderson, and the owner used to be like the building superintendent for Beezer Homes, I think, or something like that. So, but even with them, they won't build anything less than probably 900,000 to $1 million. Like they just it's not worth their time.
Yeah, we had a custom home builder on here recently on the show. So yeah,
well,
I get it.
And they start at what? $700 a square foot.
Yeah,
and their average home was 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So their starting home is like $5 million.
Dude.
See what I see? See what I mean?
Yeah. This is we got Brett Jenny
here. This is
here.
Vegas. I don't know what to tell you, man. You want country? Go to Prop, dude.
So we got Brett Jenny in studio. We're talking about mistakes to avoid when you go buy a new construction home. What is the time frame right now? Just curious on what new homes are taking to complete.
Keeps on getting pushed back. For instance, I had a contract.
Is it because of cost, right? Is that what it is? Like
cost and labor and just there's a lot of material that COVID messed it all up. So the supply lines for a lot of things are delayed or got delayed or pushed back. Like the common issue that every builder is having right now with any buyer, I don't care what price point or what area, what builder, are appliances. A lot of them either have to give you substitute appliances when you move in and then or you got to wait another couple weeks for it to come in. Nothing they can do,
So let's go back. We're talking about mistakes you want to avoid when buying a new home. Another mistake that people take on is doing a final walkthrough. And I think that's a big deal. A lot of people, so let me say this. A lot of people are out of state. And when they're out of state, they let their realtor just do the final walkthrough. Yeah. And they're just like, or send me some pictures. Is that wise? Or do you recommend somebody?
I guess it depends on your trust with your realtor and how good your realtor is. If you have a good relationship with them and they know you know your stuff, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It saves time. But regardless, every builder, whether you use a realtor or not, you'll do a final walkthrough. But the point of having a realtor is they're going to know what to look for, and you may, that's awesome, but you may not know what to look for. A realtor who's familiar with it every day is going to know exactly what to look for to make sure everything's copacetic.
Yeah, and also think about it like this too, is that if you have a realtor that is representing you,
I'm your eyes and ears on the ground if you can't be here.
That's another reason to have a realtor.
100%. And again, I'm free.
I'm free.
I mean
right.
Drop the mic. That's all I should say.
So when you do the final walkthrough, how often do you have it where people the builder doesn't perform or they're not following what the agreement was? Because a lot of, when you have consumers going to meet with builders, there's a final cost.
Yeah.
And let's say the wall wasn't done right, or the flooring, or the panels or whatever it is that wasn't done right, or you have some tile that wasn't done right.
I mean, you'll have stuff like that done on a smaller scale. It's not like they messed up the entire ground floor.
Yeah. Right.
Just because that's another thing is as the house is being built, there's different times that I, as your realtor, will call up the builder and say, we want to come through with the buyer, or I want to come through for the buyer and video and take pictures and all that stuff. So as the house is being built, I'm there to make sure that we're showing up, or I'm showing up multiple times so that we don't get to that point.
Yeah.
Like it should never get to that point.
Well, I had a story too one time where I had a lady, she was calling me and she was like, we we're about to close on this house and these things are not done right. And I said, well, who's your realtor? And they were like, well, it was some other realtor that was. And so she was worried because she felt like she couldn't get it done. And I think what clients go through is they go through that they feel that they don't have representation right? Or they don't feel that if they don't have a realtor, because they went in and they bought it with the builder's realtor.
Yeah.
And so she felt like on an island a little bit. It's almost
I know.
like, it's almost like, what do I do? Like, how do I fix this? And
that's the thing. Like, even after you close, that's why it's important, because when we go to close on that house, you and I, you're my buyer, we have a relationship now. You know how I work. You know what to expect from me. You know I've been representing you this whole time.
Right.
So if something like that does happen, and after the fact, and you're like, I don't know what to do, that should never be a thought in your mind, because you're going to automatically know I'm the man you call and I take care of it for you.
Tell me some of the horror stories that people have made, or the decisions they made. Because builders, when they go meet with clients, their objective is to obviously make as much money as they can. Lending, on the lending side and on the real estate side. When they go and sell the home, or they want to do the final numbers for the home, the upgrades, tell me some of the stories that you've dealt with or know of.
Building right now is as insane as it was before the crash happened in like 06, 07, 05, was whatever it was. But I do want to point out completely different circumstances. So anybody listening, we're not heading to a crash.
Right.
Just want to let people know.
No, we're going. Brett,
he's next.
I know. I got you.
I'm just kidding. So
I was gonna say Chuck has that all the time, where when we're on the thing, dude, that's all everybody wants to talk about.
Dude, I'm telling you, because it sells. Like, because that's what people want to hear.
People want to hear that.
But you don't even want to get me started on that, because I put those people in their place, and whatever.
Yeah, it's funny.
We're not heading to a crash. Whatever. That's a whole nother conversation we can have.
And I'll tell you right now, that's what people want to hear.
I know.
When we're doing the other
you,
podcast,
dude, if you want your podcast to go number one, let's just say how the market's going to crash, and we can just scare people of things that aren't true.
That's all they talk about.
I know that's all they talk about.
It's crazy, man.
These huge real estate guys on YouTube, the market's crashing. No, it's not, dude. Like, anyways, I'm just sick of having that conversation.
Yeah.
So back to the builder part, nightmare stories.
Yeah, it's the mistakes that people have. But
so here's what happened before, when that happened back in the day. So the reason why I can't really speak about it right now is because the market's happening right now. So if there are any bad effects of any builders, we're not going to know for another year or two. So I can't speak of that right now. All I can do is refer to in the past of the nightmares, which is basically, they're selling so quick. They have a lottery system come in where you can buy. And basically the problem with it is these homes, a whole community of 150 homes were sold before they even dug the dirt out.
Do you know that a new
home? So what's their incentive to do anything properly, or to make sure all I's are dotted and all T's are crossed, when you've already got your money?
Well, would a builder even be in trouble too, even if it was, because the warranties? I mean, do they typically come and fix this stuff?
They have big powered attorneys.
So they don't need to worry about the fact that somebody would sue them then, or anything, right?
The best way to go about this always is just to get it addressed from the get-go, so that it never gets to that point. The best way to get all this addressed from the get-go and never have it ever become an issue is to team up with a realtor right away.
Yeah.
Period.
Well,
it's simple.
So another mistake that I think people look at is cost, right? The overall cost. Now, is it smart I want to avoid this mistake, or I've talked to people about avoiding this mistake, which is overpaying for this house. Now, you're walking in negative equity into a new home. Now, this market...
Well, not in this market, you're not.
This market, though, is requiring people to go 20, 30,000 above.
But here's the thing. This is also a market where, let me give you an example. You asked a bit ago, how long is it taking to build a house? So I had a buyer that we got in contract with a new home builder at the end of last August. It was supposed to close this week. I haven't heard from them in probably a couple months.
Okay.
Because there's periods in between where they're doing their thing before we have to come in and check on them. And I said, hey, this is supposed to be closing sometime soon. When are we looking at? And they said, at this point, probably July.
I see.
So you're looking at 11 months to build a 1,700 square foot 3-story.
I see.
11 months.
That's crazy. That's a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think that people don't know.
So here's the thing, to get back to that too, as far as in this market, these buyers of mine got into contract last August. I think it was at like $435. By the time that house is completed in July, that same house, that builder, will be selling, instead of $435, will be worth probably about $460, 455, 460. So they're making 20 to 25 grand just waiting for their house to be built.
Yeah. Well, and I think people don't
So
know
that
that you can,
offsets-
but you can overpay though. Could you not? I mean, if you're buying for a home and you're going,
Well,
the existing home, I want to
you
say this.
are paying the absolute highest market value for that kind of home.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's brand new.
But so you would say you would get more bang for your buck buying existing, right? An existing home?
Naturally, yes.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, almost all the time.
All the
yes.
time, right?
But if you can't get a resale and you're paying 30 or 40 grand over on a resale, you're not saving anybody.
So do you think they're avoiding a mistake by, if you're buying a new home, let's say there's 20,000 above, and let's say you have an existing home that may not have all the things that you're looking for, but they buy over, $20,000, $30,000 over list price because there's the lottery going on. It's the market. Do you
I say it's all relative. So it comes down to your scenario, right? If you're gonna live in that house, I mean, we're in a city that people are moving here by the droves. I don't see Las Vegas slowing down. Now, I can't say anything about the housing market 2 or 3 years
it's
from
case
now.
by case. It's city by city, right?
But I can tell you that people can't get enough of moving to Las Vegas. We're one of the fastest growing cities again.
Yeah.
So if your scenario, which is I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to live in it with my family and we're going to be there for 4 or 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever it is, we're going to be there long term. And it's still cheaper than what I'd be paying for rent. And it's the community that I want and the schools that I want. Then it doesn't matter if you overpay $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000 on a $500,000, $600,000 house, because it's all relative. Because when you go to sell that house down the road, you'll more than get that money back. Plus, you got the reason why you bought that house in that area accomplished as well. It's an area that I was able to raise my kids and raise my family for the past 5, 6 years. I love driving home here. You got the quality that you wanted out of that. So that itself is worth it. It'd be different if you're going to sell that house 5 years down the road and now you're taking $50,000 less for it than you. No, that's not the case.
I have another thing on it. Let's just have an extenuation on that. What if you buy in location? What if you're somebody out there that's looking for a house, you can't find anything, the price point that you're looking at is, It's
all relative to whatever you buy that house at, it's going to be relative to what you can sell it to down the road.
Yeah, but if let's say you need to get into a house, you're moving from another state and you find out that you're in the wrong school zone for your kids. The school zone or the school is not good, or the location's not as good as or thought.
Yeah, I wouldn't do the schooling because that's all found out ahead of time. But maybe the location isn't quite what you thought it was for people.
So that's a mistake then, right? We've had clients where they were like, "Hey, can I back out because of location?" Because they got into a contract with a new home, and they're like, I don't know, man. My wife or my family or somebody doesn't really like the location, and it's happened a few times.
So I just had a scenario like that.
Right.
With Dude Man a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, they were new here. I said, first of all, it's a judgment call. Drive around. And I mean, listen, where he's driving around, it's all new homes. So you're not I don't understand what you'd physically see. But if you're hearing stories from other people or saying this and that, I would say do your own due diligence. But it's all relative.
Yeah. But I think location is definitely something that it's not going to, because when people have new homes or not, when they buy new homes, usually the builder's taking in consideration the surrounding areas and there's a plan to build out.
So that's what I'm saying. It's all relative. So let me ask you this. Why do you take you take a builder with a floor plan.
Yeah.
And you can have it say in Summerlin.
Yeah.
And it's set at a certain price. You can have that same builder with that exact same floor plan, put it in, and I won't mention some other areas of the city of new homes, and that exact same house by the exact same builder is 150, 200 grand cheaper.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? So if that's all you can afford, I understand that, but just it's all relative. So it's okay, you're still going to be selling it 5 years down the road. You're still going to be selling a home that's only 5 years old. It's still going to be in the same neighborhood. Are you going to get as much money as you are in the one in Summerlin? No, because that one was so it's all relative to what.
But these are mistakes that people should consider avoiding in the sense that they should at least put it in consideration, right? They need to
absolutely.
at least, they need to think that, it's not just, I'm buying this home and it's got all these flutes and whistles and it's, it's exactly what I wanted.
You absolutely need to consider a location. I mean, location.
Right.
It's the same reason why is an acre of sand, of desert sand on the strip worth $27 million, but you go half a mile away and it's worth $15,000.
Right. It's true. No, it's true.
It's still desert land, bro. I mean,
I'm going to say this last thing is, I think a lot of people don't look at lenders, right? And they look at outside lenders. And I think the mistake they can avoid is don't just go and settle for what the builder's lender has to offer to you. A lot of times when you have a realtor that is working with the lender, it's good to get a second opinion or maybe even consider a few reasons
listen,
why.
Nothing in life is free.
Right.
So if a builder is saying we're going to pay your closing costs, stand back and say, man, has anybody offered to pay anything that's normally $10,000 for free before?
Right.
Why do you think that is?
Right.
So I always have this conversation with people, which is what builders, lenders do is they say, oh, we'll pay your closing costs. We'll pay 2%.
Right.
So here's what they do. They add on a bunch of fees that should never be there in the first place,
right,
to then take it away so they can say, look, we're actually saving you X amount of dollars on this because we're taking this off the cost. Well, those are costs that shouldn't be on there in the first place.
Yeah.
So what are you saving? You're taking away something that shouldn't be there in the first place. How are you saving money? Like, it's not free.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
Well, it's not free. And I think just having that option, I mean, it's people look at it and go, well, some people might need the incentive and they're just going to go all in and they don't have a lot of money. I think the ones that do look at this is, one, the rate's usually better.
Yeah.
If you look around or you use an outside lender, or also people that look at an outside lender, in some cases, there's no cost. Like for veterans, I'm a lender with guarantee rate. We don't charge veterans for any loans. That means there's no origination fees, where if you get these builders, there's origination fees. So I think it's just a mistake to avoid the mistake of just going in and using a lender and I got my blinders on, I don't see anything else.
Just as a protection for a consumer, like, get multiple opinions.
Yeah.
Like
just have the open mind is what it is.
Yeah. Like,
you gotta
just don't, but they were really nice to me.
Yeah.
Of course they were.
Well, look, at their objective, just like we talked about it, lending and real estate, is to make as much money as they can.
That's the point of their business. Yes.
Are you getting a new home? Is it great? Yes. Absolutely.
Hey, and listen, there's nothing wrong with people making money in their business. Absolutely nothing wrong. That's what capitalism is founded on. But you need to have the proper representation of people who know what they're doing, who are looking out for you.
Right. That's 100% right.
Like, it'd be different if you had to pay tens of thousands for that service, but you don't.
So, guys, we just went over a few mistakes that people make. This is mistakes that we would like you guys to avoid out there, or at least consider. So this show is really about avoiding mistakes. I'm in studio here with Brett Jenny. He's from Simply Vegas.
The one and only.
The one and only. And, Brett, I appreciate you coming on, man. You got any last final words on this?
Nope. Just, listen, if you just get somebody in the game who knows what they're doing. It's free. So I just don't understand why people wouldn't. Yeah. So.
Well, like I said, guys, we will be back here on Tuesday. I got a great episode on Tuesday. I got a couple of real estate agents that work in the industry, and we're going to talk about how they work in the industry and they coexist with being a realtor as well. So, again, this is Dan French. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be at the next one's on Tuesday. And Brett, you got any plans today, man? You got anything going on?
Showings.
Coffees.
Work.
Thank you for watching an episode of the French Workbench podcast. If you want to tune into past episodes, please subscribe to my channel now. Also, if you want to look at our audio-only options, we do have iTunes and SoundCloud.